Good evening. I'm Diana Nearing, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters for the Annarbor area. I welcome you to tonight's forum featuring candidates for Washtenaw County Commissioners for District 2 and District 9. The candidates will be on the ballot in the primary election on August 7th, 2018. We are broadcasting from the studios of CTN in Ann Arbor. The League of Women Voters is pleased to sponsor these forums. The League is a nonpartisan, grassroots organization that encourages informed and active participation of all citizens in government. The League works to increase understanding of major policy issues and seeks to strengthen and broaden knowledge about our form of government and democracy. While the League does not support candidates or parties, we do take stands on issues that we have studied. One of the League's most important goals is to assist voters in making informed choices at the polls, and thus we bring you tonight's program. Our moderator this evening is Dorma Ackman, who will explain the format and get us started.
Thank you. So there are 5 candidates for County Commissioner for 2 districts, 2 and 9, 1 seat available in each of the districts. The 3 candidates for District 2 are Sue Schenk, Roderick Green, and Tom Brennan. Roderick Green was unable to attend tonight, though he was invited. And the 2 candidates for District 9 are Coenen Smith and Katie Scott. The format is as follows. Each candidate will give a 1-minute opening statement and a 1-minute closing statement. The order of speaking was determined by drawing from a hat before we began. Candidates will give their opening statements in the order in which you see them seated. So we'll start with Tom Brennan, Coenen Smith, then Sue Schenk, and Katie Scott. I will ask questions which came from the community and a committee of League members. Each candidate will have up to 90 seconds for a response. At appropriate times, the timers will hold up their paddles with the amount of time remaining and then a stop sign. Please stop when indicated so that everyone has an equal opportunity to participate. Our timers are League members Betty Bishop and Miriam Shaw. So now we're ready for your opening statements. First, Tom Brennan.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight. My name's Tom Brennan. I am running to work for you in District 2 as your next county commissioner. Let's see, I grew up in Washtenaw County, grew up in Chelsea, graduated in 2000 from Chelsea High School, did 2 years at Washtenaw Community College, and then transferred to Bowling Green State University where I earned my Bachelor of Arts in Political Science. I've been working for the University of Michigan Health System for almost 11 years and have become involved in local politics over the past several years, being involved in the local Democratic Party. My wife and I have lived in Superior Township for almost 5 years, and I decided I wanted to give back to the community by running for the county commission seat.
Okay, thank you. Next, Coenen Smith.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening. It's great to be back. I think this might be my 7th time here. That's a long time to serve on the County Board of Commissioners. I've been there for 14 years. I would say if there's one thing that characterizes my service there, it is action on your values as residents of Washtenaw County. You've said to me things like, let's reduce our carbon footprint. Since I've been on the board, we have reduced our electricity use by 20% and saved 4 million pounds a year of carbon. Stop that from going into our atmosphere. You asked for more urban recreation opportunities, and I give you the Annarbor Skate Park and the Border to Border Trail. You asked that we do something about the Gelman plume, and I worked diligently with our state legislative delegation to see a new standard put in, lower standard, to protect our public health. And you asked for things like the mental health millage and for advancement on workforce development. My track record is putting your values into action. I hope you can enjoy some of the work that I've done, and I look forward to having your support.
Thank you. Sue Schenk.
Hi, my name is Sue Schenk, and I am running for County Commissioner because I love this community. In District 2, children can run free, get dirty, and grow up strong, while in close proximity to the vibrant communities of Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti. I've been working to preserve the quality of life in District 2 for many years. I have found that I am effective at amplifying the voice of our community. I chair the Agricultural Lands Preservation Advisory Committee. I've served on the board of the Huron River Watershed Council. As an attorney, I've been assisting immigrants in becoming citizens, including transgender people and victims of domestic violence. I also volunteer with a nonprofit that helps kids develop the skills that they need to succeed by working with horses. I listen to people, I include them in decision making, and I respect their positions. Our residents are informed and engaged. They deserve to be listened to. And so I am asking for your vote on August 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. And Katie Scott.
Hi. First of all, I want to thank you for having me here tonight for the League of Women Voters and to the Community Television Network. This is really an invaluable experience that voters have, and I'm thrilled to be here. So as you know, my name is Katie Scott. I am an intensive care nurse. I've lived in Ann Arbor most of my adult life. I raised my family here, and I'm excited to be able to talk tonight and try to earn your vote going forward. In my whole time living here, I will say, though, I haven't seen directly what a county commissioner does for everyday people, but I've watched as Ann Arbor has become a more expensive place to live. We're a town run by Democrats, but every day gets harder for working people. So I am excited to make sure that Ann Arbor remains a diverse place for working people where they can afford to live, and we need to put working families first. So again, I'm Katie Scott, running for Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners in District 9. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you. So beginning with Mr. Brennan, the first question is, many residents don't have an understanding of county government. How would you explain the county's primary responsibilities and services, and what better way can you communicate to your constituents on your role on these issues?
Thank you for that question. That is a really good question. And I get asked that a lot when I'm going door to door, what a county commissioner does. I explain to my residents that a county commissioner is the legislative function of the county. I've started using the term, we're an agent of the state. The state creates a lot of the services, and then the county government will allocate the services. I think what needs to happen is we do need to have better publicity about what services are available to the residents. And also, we need to make sure that they can easily access those services, such as health care, mental health, anything that the county has to offer as a human service. County government is probably the most important level of government, as it is the front line of vital services.
Okay. Mr. Smith, same question to you.
Sure. When I first joined the board, I had the benefit of some mentorship from the then county administrator, Bob Gunzel. And Bob said to me, the county is the invisible layer of government. And for most of us, that's really true. You only encounter the county when things are either really good, like when you need a marriage license or a birth certificate, or when things are really bad, when you've lost your home or you have trouble with the law. Most of what we do are quiet social services. We are the safety net for the people in this county. When you're out of a home, you can come to us for homelessness services or affordable housing. When you are in crisis, say in mental health or human health, you can come to us for those services. When your community is facing an environmental threat, we are the public health agency and the environmental health agency. Most of what we do quietly sits in the backgrounds of your lives. What we strive to do, of course, is let you know that those services are available in the moment of need when you have to have them, good or bad.
Thank you. Ms. Schenk.
I see the county as providing a lot of quality of life services. The county funds parks and roads. The county commissioners don't have a lot of direct say unless they end up on the committees, which is important. The county also provides basic safety net services that affect our physical health, mental health, and some economic development and some transportation issues. Really, as the federal government steps back from its responsibility toward people, the county will be stepping in to make sure that essential services don't go undone. And so that is going to be one of the challenges for the county going forward. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Scott.
So one of the ways I see county government is attached to what I do in my daily life. So I'm a nurse in the ICU, and a lot of what I do is in the background. I do the things that make things go every day and make patients hopefully get better. And that's what I think that I see the county commission, the board of commissioners doing. A lot of things that happen in the background of your lives, it touches every aspect of your life, just like what I do as a nurse. So things like the roads and veterans affairs and community mental health and public health and water and parks and rec. And so those things that all have to work smoothly in the background all the time are the things that I see the Board of Commissioners doing. I get that question a lot when I'm out knocking on doors, canvassing, and meeting my neighbors. It's fun to talk to people about what a county commissioner does. That's one way I feel like I'm spreading the word about what the Board of Commissioners does. And I also think that getting in that office would be really helpful to send out information to people in the district just about things that we're watching at the county level, not necessarily things I've done or things that we're successful at, but things people might want to know about that are coming up in the future, because you want people to be engaged with that work the county commission is doing, since it does touch every aspect of our lives.
Okay. The second question goes to Mr. Smith first. Commissioners are elected from separate districts, but they also are responsible for decisions that affect the entire county. In what way do priorities of your district's constituents differ with county-wide issues? In which ways do they overlap? And how do you make the hard decisions?
Yeah, that is a constant challenge. Much of what we do as elected officials is measuring trade-offs. What is good for one district may not be good for another, and yet, for me, the sort of foundational decision-making set of principles is social equity. I want to make sure that everybody in our county has equal opportunity to succeed. I want to make sure that those who have that everyone has their most basic needs covered. And so if that means that folks from my district end up getting a little bit less so that folks from a more needy district can get a little bit more, that's okay with me. And that's been okay with my voters for many years. And then vice versa. When our community is in need, for example, as the Gelman plume expands, we find lots of my colleagues who are willing to step in and help out even though that particular issue doesn't impact them. The way that works, frankly, is just good relationships. Unlike some levels of government, what you'll see on the County Board of Commissioners is a willingness to listen to each other, to hear the pains and the optimism and the dreams of other people and what their district represents. So it really becomes a team effort to make the county as a whole a much better place to live for everyone.
Okay, same question, Ms. Schenk.
Out where I live, a lot of people are very worried about land preservation. We have spent a lot of time trying to convince local governments that our neighborhoods deserve to continue to exist. And the county has an excellent land preservation program, which I've been involved in since its inception. That and water quality are very huge issues. Most of the people in District 2 drink groundwater. The road beds are also very important issues because we drive on dirt roads that are maintained by the County Road Commission. At the same time as we would like our road beds to be improved because they are often very dangerous, we want to save the old trees that line them because those are important to our sense of place. Some people don't even have access to internet in District 2, which makes it difficult for people to work from home or their children to do homework at home. None of these issues impinge on anybody else. I believe that a strong rural area supports a strong urban area, and a strong urban area supports a strong rural area. And I have found that the voters of this district also do. And so what I am going to do is talk to people and find out what they need and work with them. I don't believe that success is a zero-sum game. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Scott?
So I really have to tell you, I echo what Sue said in that answer too. I think that we work in concert together to make things better across the whole county. So certainly you have to listen to the people that you are representing and know what they want. But I feel like the people of Washtenaw County know how we work together as a community. So the primary thing I think you have to do is make sure that you're listening to people not only in your own district, but across the county. One of the things I'd like to do is see the county commission have meetings out county rather than in that same location downtown Annarbor, which is great for me. It's a mile from my house. That sounds fantastic. But I think it would be really fantastic to take some meetings out to places, in Saline or Dexter and Chelsea, and encourage more people to come to those meetings from those areas so we could listen to what they're saying about what's important to them. Primarily, what drives me is knowing that what we do in government is good for working people and working families, and that as long as we're doing that in a transparent and open manner and listening to people, I think that's the way you balance the needs of your own district with the entire county.
Okay, and to you, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you. So yes, actually, great thoughts, yes. District 2 is largely rural, but there are small urban pockets, or suburban pockets, I should say. And yes, lack of broadband access is probably among the biggest issues out there. A lot of farmers want to be able to sell their produce, and a lot of people purchase with credit cards nowadays, and they want to be able to use that card to make that purchase. And also touching on having Board of Commission meetings out county, I would also like to try to expand some of the services. So like for marriage licenses, birth certificates, you don't have to come to downtown Ann Arbor and have to deal with all the parking, but rather have a county clerk outpost in Chelsea, Dexter, or even at your township hall for that matter, or Whitmore Lake as an example. Bringing the services to the people so they don't have to come into the city and travel long distances would be what I would like to see.
Okay, thank you. The next question goes to you first, Ms. Schenk. In November 2018, voters will be asked to approve a 10-year tax renewal to fund the purchase, development, and maintenance of county parks and recreational facilities. Looking at the next 10 years, what are the specific needs that this tax should fund? Can you envision a time when the county no longer needs to acquire additional parkland?
I support that millage. I have been very active on the County Agricultural Lands Preservation Advisory Committee, and I know that the acquisition of land or the acquisition of development rights is very important in maintaining open space, because as time goes forward there will be more developments, and so this millage is specifically for parkland. If you go out county more, you'll see if the land that's not protected were to develop, it would be very congested. And so parks are very important to maintain the quality of life. I know that even back when Mayor Heefsha was mayor of Ann Arbor, there was a study that was done that showed that much of Ann Arbor's economic success could be traced back to parkland. So I love being outside, and I know that people need to be outside. I also know that in Ypsilanti there are inadequate exercise facilities, and I would like to see money going to Ypsilanti to make sure that people there have adequate recreational opportunities, because right now what I'm hearing is that they don't, and so that's important. It's important that we make sure that the whole county has access to recreation.
Same question to you, Ms. Scott.
So I also support the millage. I think that it's true that having the parkland around us makes Washtenaw County really a unique place. I think about how much I love living in Ann Arbor and being able to go not very far out of the city and feel like I'm in a totally different place than being in the center of Ann Arbor. How much I love bringing my kid up there, that we can like leave Ann Arbor and go pick apples or go to pick strawberries, and it feels like a really unique experience. So I think protecting the lands that we have and continuing to fund parks is important. I think about the idea of continuing to fund parks also in terms of health justice. And so when we think about health justice, sometimes people are just thinking about access to health care, but it's more than that. It's about having access to parks where you can play and run and be healthy. It's about having access to grocery stores that are near you and things like that. But that parkland millage to me addresses that issue of health justice, and I definitely would like to see Ann Arbor, Washtenaw County continue that work. And as to the fact that if there's a time we're not going to have to continue purchasing parkland, I think that there will always be work to do, with parkland, whether that is within a city and a community or outside of the developed areas.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brennan, same question.
Yes, I do support that millage. I agree. Washtenaw County is just beautiful with the outdoors. You have both the city, for those of us that like cities, and then if you want to say go for a hike, you just go 5 minutes outside the city and you're in nature preserves. You can get your exercise. It's going to the Health Justice Initiative. It promotes good, healthy lifestyles. And yes, I want to see Washtenaw be able to set aside park preserves to keep it from development down the line. And not that I'm against development, but we need to have smart growth in Washtenaw County.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I'm right in line with everyone else on this table, and I think Katie probably said it best, that our parklands, our recreational facilities are more than just nice places to go. They are public health and an economic development priority for us. I've served on the Washtenaw County Parks Commission since 2005, and I've been honored to be a part of some of the major projects that we've already advanced, like the skate park, the border-to-border trail, and others. We still have a long way to go in terms of ensuring access for everybody to all the kinds of facilities that we should be providing. For example, we don't have a rec center on the east side of the county. We should be building one of those, and it should be a facility that attracts elite athletes. That's a gap in our existing facility set right now, so that folks from all over this region, all over Washtenaw County, find themselves locating for that service inside the city of Ypsilanti, which would benefit from both the health and the economic development aspects of that. The border-to-border trail itself is incomplete. There are some major and very expensive gaps in that along the Huron River. We're going to need some additional resources to make that 30-mile trek as smooth and accessible as possible. In terms of the future, well, the next 10 years, there's definitely enough work to be done. And I suspect there'll still be work to be done 10 years from now. Eventually, maybe we'll run out of projects, but I sort of hope not, personally.
Okay, thank you. This next question goes to you, Ms. Scott, first. In 2017, the voters approved the countywide millage for public safety and mental health. How will you work to implement that money, and what are your priorities?
Oh, so I have a lot of opinions about the community mental health millage. That millage passed when it passed by more than 70%, and I think what it showed us definitively is that people in Washtenaw County care about mental health and they support our community mental health program. One of the things that happened with that millage, though, I think a lot of people were not aware that the millage was written in a way that allowed rebates to come back to cities that had police forces in place. That's taken a lot of people by surprise, which goes to one of my main issues about talking about making sure we have transparency in government. One of the things that I would like to see happen with that millage is to make sure that people who are working in the community mental health program are paid a fair and living wage. What I know about healthcare and what I know about community mental health is that continuity of care is the best indicator of an outcome for people in community mental health programs. So I want to see people be able to get into those positions and be able to afford to stay in those positions. And I think then that lessens some of the demand on the system over time. That's definitely something I'd like to see happen. We're also still waiting to see how the current county commissioners are going to respond to the focus groups that have been working, talking about what's going to be happening with a recommendation for that funding. I don't know if that decision is going to be made now or after the primary, but I'm eager to see how that will work.
Okay, thank you. Same question to you, Mr. Brennan.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we really need to fully invest the mental health tax dollars to the fullest extent that we can. I'm also coming to learn that some places are not using it exclusively for mental health, and we need to make sure it is being used for what it was intended. Mental health is a public safety issue, and without access to the mental health system, people are not going to be able. We're going to have more police calls. We're going to have, it's going to be a tax on our services. So we do need to make sure that this is fully invested.
Okay. Same question to you, Mr. Smith.
Sure, thanks. You know, the biggest challenge with this millage is that despite the size of it, it's not enough money to solve any one of the single problems that we have in front of us. Tom's right, public safety and mental health are intricately related. 38% of that millage is going to the Sheriff's Department to make sure that really our first responders are better prepared to deal with mental health illnesses and emergencies. 25% of it's going back to the communities who already provide that service for the public safety portion. And then 38% comes to the county for mental health services. That's just about $5 million a year. Katie's right, we do have a big challenge with paying our mental health workers, but to bring all of our mental health workers up to a living wage would cost us $17 million a year. So there's not enough money there. What we do need to do with that millage money, I think, is make a strategic early stage investment. And I'd like to see all of those dollars programmed to help youth in our community. In particular, we've seen increases in anxiety among students in middle school and high school that lead to suicide, depression, sometimes school violence. If we can intervene earlier there and teach people how to lead good, strong, healthy mental lives as well as strong physical lives, I think then we create a systemic effect that moves forward in generation by generation and makes our world a much better place. So those small dollars can be leveraged upwards.
Okay. Ms. Schenk.
I participated in 2 of the community conversations surrounding the mental health millage. And I heard exactly what Coenen just said. There's not enough money to take care of all the needs. Some of the major issues that I heard when I was at the conversations is that the lack of continuity with the community mental health workers is a treatment issue. And so if they're not paid a living wage, that is affecting the treatment and care that the people in our community are receiving. I also heard and advocated strongly for prevention in young people. I have children, and I believe that the level of depression and anxiety in our schools is probably much greater than people even are realizing. And so, and I say this because when I speak privately with people, I hear so much more than I hear in public about this situation. And so I agree very much with Coenen that money put into prevention early, starting as early as preschool, will be money well spent. I've also heard that the crisis services for people are woefully inadequate, and our police chief in Northfield Township is having to send people to the U of M psychiatric services when something a step down, maybe a walk-in clinic, would be a possibility for people to receive treatment without having to be admitted. So there are a lot of opportunities there, and I look forward to working on them.
Okay. You're first again, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you.
So the Washtenaw County Road Commission is a semi-autonomous entity governed by a 3-county board that's appointed by the county board. One of the board seats expires at the end of 2018. What qualities are you looking for in a commissioner, and what role do you play in addressing constituent concerns when there are controversial issues?
Thank you for that question. Well, one of the qualities I look for in a commissioner would be they need to be accountable to the people who they're representing. And far too often it's been coming to my attention that road commission has not been responsive in a timely manner. I have had issues myself where potholes are so bad I've reported them. It would take at least a month for them to even come out there and patch it up. So responsiveness and accountability to the people would be the way that I really want to make sure that that commissioner holds that quality of. Something I learned too that the county commission can do is expand the road commission to more members. And my vision would be to have it where each member comes from a certain area of the county as opposed to an at-large scheme that we currently have. then that way in each area of the county you have somebody on the ground who can address the needs, report it to the road crews, and then get the situation resolved right away.
Okay, Mr. Smith?
I think similar to Tom, I'd look for people who are sensitive to the public need. The commissioner whose term is up at the end of this year is also a strong subject matter expert. I want to make sure that we retain that kind of expertise on the board. I think more importantly, though, as Tom also mentioned, we need structural reform at the Road Commission. It is not accountable back to the public by design, unfortunately. And the County Board of Commissioners has an opportunity to change that, and we should. At the very least, we should expand it to 5 members. That shouldn't even be a tough vote. It unfortunately has been over the years. But making sure that we have more diverse representation on that board is an easy thing for us to do. We should take care of it as fast as we can. I think, however, the County Board of Commissioners should consolidate the Road Commission underneath the county and treat it like a department as we do other major services that we provide. Mental health, the sheriff's office, the courts all function well underneath county government, and because the Board of Commissioners oversees them, every citizen has a direct access to the decision makers who are impacting that service set. We have, under the current statute, a short time period, I believe it's 2 more years, during which we could consolidate the Road Commission under county government. I hope we take that opportunity, bring it in, still ensuring individuals and communities access to that decision-making process, but making sure that the voters at the end of the day are the final decision makers.
Okay, same question to you, Ms. Schenk.
I appreciate Coenen's remarks because I went to the Road Commission with other residents of Webster Township and Northfield Township to ask them to stop cutting down the 200 to 300-year-old oak trees that line our streets. The reception we got was less. It was ridiculous. The Road Commission appeared not to particularly care about our position. And I would say that the most important qualification for somebody to be on the Road Commission would be that they respect the people of this community, that they listen to the people of this community, and that they make themselves available to the people of this community. Out of the group that went to the Road Commission, one person offered to try to make a connection with the chair. The chair never really responded. And although the Road Commission said that they would not continue on with the work of cutting down the 300-year-old trees and giving them to the tree cutting company, they also said that they might just continue on. I would look for somebody who is open to context-sensitive design that respects the community, somebody who is drop-dead honest, and somebody who has a strong commitment to community engagement. That means real communication that goes 2 ways with our community. When I am out canvassing, one of the biggest complaints I get is about the state of the road and the lack of responsiveness of the Road Commission. Thank you.
Ms. Scott?
So one of the places that I have been to many times with my family is outside of Charleston, South Carolina. And you drive down a road to get out towards the ocean, and it is bordered on either side by these humongous live oaks. Now, it can be a little scary to drive down that road sometimes because the oaks are right on the road. But that community knew how important the beauty of that road was and those trees and how much character it gave to it. So it makes me think, like when I think about the roads here, that we have a utilitarian use for our roads, getting from here to there. But we also know that some of the roads we have are beautiful, like the roads out by Sioux with those beautiful trees, that we have to think about making roads useful and then preserving their natural beauty as well. So when I think I'd look for somebody to be on the Road Commission to take that place, I'd want somebody who could work with teams and do team building, who could cross partisan lines, who could talk to the state about funding that we get for roads, who's clever, who's intelligent, who's a nimble thinker, who is responsive to people. Also, we have to have somebody who knows the difference and knows those technical things. I have a friend who is an engineer, and I can't tell you to this day whether he was cement or concrete, and he tells me they're totally different. So somebody needs to be on the roads that knows that. We really need to think about how we can make our priorities here in Washtenaw County known to the state, and somebody who can also work with the state to try to give us back some of the money that was taken by Snyder, $2 million in tax breaks, and get that money to come back to the roads.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next question goes to you first, Mr. Smith. The Washtenaw County Commissioners provide the budget for the county criminal and judicial system. What role would you play in overseeing that the judges and prosecutors are accountable to our community?
Oh, that's a tough question. The reason it's tough is because they are separate branches of government, and they are empowered by the state legislature and the Constitution to act separately. The county's primary role is funding them and making sure that the service set that we want to see delivered is actually delivered. So in terms of engaging ourselves in the judiciary directly, it's really, there's an appropriateness line that you have to be very, very cognizant of as you move into that space. That being said, we have had a lot of success in working directly with the judiciary to diversify the kinds of justice that we're providing across the county. We now have a drug court, for example. We have a dedicated court for veterans. We have a new court that has been focused on alternative dispute resolution. All of those ideas are a conversation between the Board of Commissioners and the judiciary collectively. As we move forward, I do think that we have to have more attention paid to mental health issues and to racial diversity issues and how those are impacting our community and the provision of justice. It's my hope that we'll work directly with the judges themselves and with the prosecutorial staff over whom we have somewhat more direct influence to create a more equitable, fair, and accessible judicial system up and down the line.
Okay, Ms. Schenk.
Well, I'm glad that I'm not running against Coenen because he said it perfectly. I'm a lawyer, and when I was younger, I worked in the St. Clair County Circuit Court as a research clerk, as a lawyer. And I worked in a circuit court that was very well run. I believe that the county commissioners can serve a very important function of expecting good service, a great service. Of course, it would be inappropriate to be interposing ourselves in the judgments that are made. But in terms of working with the courts, by working efficiently and honestly and openly with the administration, I think that we can do exactly what is needed. Thank you.
Ms.
So I think that when you look at the budgets for the county courts, that everything that Coenen and that Sue have said so far is right. What you need to do is that for the county Board of Commissioners is to think about the priorities that you have for your community and then how those priorities are then reflected in that judicial system. That conversation and that process should be a really transparent process so nobody feels like anything is left in the dark or swept under the rug. So it's definitely should be an open conversation that all parts of the community are engaged in. I think when you talk about that on the county level, we need to think about things like restorative justice. We need to think about the work that the community mental health millage and those dollars play in that judicial system as well. That money is at stake here, and so how you can involve different ideas in involving people in the work of public safety officials, getting people like social workers involved in that. Those are discussions that we can have that do things in a new creative way that I think can show Washtenaw community not only as a regional leader but a national leader too. We have the brain power to do that here, and it's exciting to think about being able to do that work.
Thank you. Mr. Brennan.
Yes, thank you. Well, all three of them have said it, hit the nail on the head. I agree with them. What I'm finding is the court systems are having to be used because a lot of the causes aren't addressed, especially mental health. I think if you address the root causes of the violence and the violence that happens in our community, all the health crises that happen in our community, then courts will not be as taxed as much, and so you won't have as crowded of a court system. But yes, I agree. We need to focus on restorative justice, maybe focus more on community service as opposed to having to have you serve time in jail, things of that nature.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Schenk, what is the county's role in environmental issues existing in our jurisdictions, such as the dioxane plume in Annarbor? What do you think the county's role is in things like that?
In the dioxane plume, the county is party to the lawsuit with Gelman and the state, and so the county has something to say about the way the cleanup is being, the way the cleanup is happening. Right now, my understanding is that the state is trying to contain the plume, and there's an issue because what I heard when I went to the CARD meeting, which is the meeting of parties who are interested in the dioxane plume, is that there is dioxane coming up in the soil in places in some neighborhoods. And that's a big issue because dioxane is toxic. There are a lot of, it's a really messy issue. It should have been dealt with 25 years ago. And so there's an issue. Does the community kind of move from working with the DEQ and hope that the EPA will actually do the work that we've come to believe that the EPA does, clean up Superfund, or in this new federal environment, it's a little bit uncertain. And so the county has a lot to say, and I think that needs to do a lot of thinking and research. There's also water quality issues, participation with Huron Watershed Council, and farmland and open space protection. Those are all environmental, and there's a lot of work there to be done. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Scott.
So the county, as Sue said, the county is involved in that lawsuit, party to that lawsuit. But what needs to happen with the Gelman plume is that it needs to be cleaned quickly and transparently so that county residents and taxpayers know what's being done. Ultimately, polluters should pay, and that's what needs to happen here. I feel like we're still talking about this Gelman plume, and we've been talking about it for years, and we really have to start pushing this issue. We need to look into the EPA Superfund to try to help us clear that up. I think we need to do that with all sorts of speed and alacrity, especially seeing the erosions that we have and the EPA on the federal level. So it's time for us to really start addressing this openly, and hopefully something good happens from that lawsuit. There are environmental issues at stake across the county other than just that dioxin plume. We do have water quality issues that we want to address. We want to think about keeping the rivers, like, it's so much fun to me that we can go swim in the river now, not something that you would have done when I was a kid. And so we need to keep those things up and protect the environmental resources that we have here in Washtenaw County.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Brennan.
I agree, yeah, but it is a major issue, and I wish it was happening a lot faster. County should hold the EPA and the DEQ even more accountable, hold their feet to the fire, and work on getting this cleaned up fast before it becomes a health problem. I worry that the more it gets into the groundwater, it's going to affect the Annarbor drinking water and wells around the county. A lot of municipalities around the county, like Chelsea, Dexter, get their water from wells. So people aren't going to have good, clean water to drink. And I agree, Gelman should be footing the bill for this cleanup. And they should be held accountable.
Okay, Mr. Smith.
The county is the front lines for environmental health in our jurisdiction, in our community. And unfortunately, we're faced with dramatic challenges countywide. There are more than 9,000 polluted sites across Washtenaw County, and we don't have the resources or the legislative tools to ensure that they're cleaned up effectively yet. So the county needs to advocate at the state level for some reforms in order to give us a stronger say in how those get cleaned up. And frankly, I think we should be asking our voters for a pollution bond to give us some of the resources to go after the most egregious sites that are impacting the county. One of those, of course, is the Paul Gelman plume. I'm a strong supporter of an application to the EPA for us to become a Superfund site. The Superfund doesn't have enough money to clean up the Gelman site on its own. But what's important about EPA Superfund designation is that It allows us to clean up the site and still go after the polluter for the cost of that cleanup. That action requires the consent of the state government. So we also need a Department of Environmental Quality in Lansing that agrees with us that cleanup is the most important thing. Protecting the public health is critical. Right now, the DEQ's attitude is that we mitigate the risk and we want to remediate the pollution. That's the most important thing for us.
Okay, thank you. So I think this next question will be our last question, and it goes to you, Ms. Scott, first. How will you help the county meet its financial and healthcare obligations for its retirees?
This is a huge question. I think that the financial and healthcare goals for its retirees is an enormous question that brings into things with the Washtenaw County Health Plan, talking about things like Meals on Wheels. Addressing more affordable housing across the county is going to be part of that. I think what that's going to require is careful consideration of the budget and looking at every penny that the county spends. For me, one of the things that I've done in thinking about running for this race is really carefully examine the open checkbook at the county level and looking at where every dollar is spent. We have to think about why we're sending money to the west side of the state to law firms that are union avoidance law firms. I think with addressing those thousands of dollars going there when we could be spending it on our community is going to be part of what we need to do going forward, part of what I would want to do going forward on the county commission. I am always a person who puts working people and working families first. That is absolutely one of my biggest priorities if elected to the commission. So carefully examining that budget and thinking about how we can continue to support our seniors in this community is of vital importance to me. We need everybody to be able to live in the community. My 9-year-old son says all the time he wants to come back and live here, so we need to continue to make it affordable for our seniors to live here and for our children to come back if they want to live here too.
Okay, Mr. Brennan.
That is a great question. I agree. We need to make Washtenaw County a place where people want to spend the rest of their lives. My wife and I, we want to spend the rest of our lives here. We find it to be a great community. We want to make sure, I want to make sure that that the county invests in more affordable housing throughout the county. We need to make sure that wow, that's a tough question. We need to make sure that we are investing in the community, like Katie Scott said, that we, maybe the county government needs to, when they are going out for contractors for projects, invest in firms that are in Washtenaw County first before going outside the county. That'll keep our money here. Invest in small business here in the county. That keeps it in the community.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Smith?
You know, our retirement system is one of the greatest fiscal challenges that the county faces. We're responsible for more than 1,300 people's long-term retirement security, and our retirement fund currently is only funded at about 75%. The healthcare benefit package, the OPEB liability for the county, is far less funded than that even. We have hundreds of millions of dollars of debt liability that we have got to figure out a way to resolve. That's not going to be easy for sure. I joined the retirement board a few years ago with the intention of thinking that long-term strategy through with that board and making sure that it didn't negatively impact the county budget long-term. We missed a window, unfortunately. We had an opportunity to bond for those resources, which would have created an arbitrage opportunity for us and flattened the impact on the county budget while securing our retirees. We need to look for that window to open back up again because that is our best long-term bet. In the meantime, what we've done on the pension board is make sure that our projections and our investments are better in sync with our long-term needs. So, for example, we've changed our investment strategy to be earning 7.25% annually, year over year, and we're hitting that strategy. We've reduced the fees that we're paying to our brokerage firms to make sure that more dollars are being saved for retirement long-term. It's not an easy challenge. It is a major challenge, and it's going to require long-term diligence to make sure it's resolved correctly.
Thank you. Ms. Schenk.
Thank you. I appreciate what Coenen said about trying to do more with what we have. When I was trustee of Northfield Township, our township was facing a lowered bond rating because of our financial situation, and I was part of a team that was able to take our finances to a place where our bond rating was preserved. And I think that that's the same kind of behavior that is happening and needs to happen with the pension, because it's a lot of times in an organization, there are places to find a little more money without raising taxes. And I think I'm pretty good at that. I think another step, because there are more retirees being created every year, is to make sure that people who work for the county are being paid a living wage so that they have an opportunity to make investments and prepare for the future themselves. In terms of our seniors in the greater community, I believe that the county is doing a pretty good job in terms of coordinating with townships, nonprofits, and community groups, and also encouraging affordable housing and good transportation is important for providing for all seniors to spend their years in Washtenaw County.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to move on to the closing statements. The first closing statement, and again, you each have 1 minute, goes to Tom Brennan.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, folks, for tuning in tonight. I really hope to earn your vote. I really enjoy Washtenaw County. I think it's a great place to live, work, and play. I wouldn't live anywhere else if I had the opportunity. My wife and I have lived in our house for almost 5 years, and we plan to retire in Washtenaw County. And I want to be a part of making an even better place to live, work, and play. And I encourage younger people out there to become involved in their community civically. I encourage those who are coming of voting age to seriously consider elective office themselves down the line to help better this community. I thank you very much, and I hope to earn your vote on August 7th.
Okay, thank you. Coenen Smith.
Thanks. It's been great to be here, and I really appreciate Diana and Dharma, you guys taking the time tonight, and Betty and Miriam for standing strong there. The League of Women Voters does a great service for the community when you put this together, and thank you to CTN. I know you guys in the background are working it out there. Thank you. It's been great to be here with you guys too. I mean, if there's anything that comes out of this forum, like, everybody in Washtenaw County should be excited that whoever represents you on the Board of Commissioners is going to be a person of good value, great intellect, and hard work. You see that sitting up here today. I hope I get to come back for another term. I've been there for 14 years, and I think I have a track record of turning your values into good action at the county. I want to keep doing that. I think the complex issues that you heard tonight require that kind of knowledge and leadership, and I'm ready to keep providing it for you. I hope I can count on your support on August 7th.
Okay, thank you. Sue Schenk.
I've been working for the people, land, and community for as long as I've lived in Washtenaw County. And I will say that my favorite part about running for this office and being involved in the community is getting to know our residents. I've enjoyed talking to people and finding out what they truly care about and how they're involved in the community. And so if I haven't met you yet, I hope to meet you soon. I want to be, and I already am, a voice for many residents. I have a track record of standing with our residents, and that will continue on whether I'm elected or not. I believe in a strong rural area and a strong urban area. I've been working for both. I support the encouragement of micro businesses, including farms and farm stands. I also know that there are places out in District 2 that aren't getting the county services that they need. I'm experienced in government, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie Scott.
So again, I want to thank the League and to everyone watching. We really depend on people like you to make democracy work. And I appreciate the time that people have spent watching the conversation and those of you who are here. And I also want to thank the other candidates sitting at the table. It's never an easy decision to make to decide to run for office. It requires a lot of hard work and dedication. It's the longest, most intense job interview that you've ever had. And so I want to thank everybody here sitting at the table for caring about our community as well. So tonight, what I hope I did is I hope I did more to earn your vote going forward. I know that if I'm elected to this office, one of my first goals is to bring more transparency into government, into particular to the county government. We have to make sure that Ann Arbor and Washtenaw County remains a diverse place where working people can afford to live. We want our parents to be able to stay living here, and we want our kids to come back. I know I have a strong voice to advocate for people, and I hope that you'll consider voting for me, Katie Scott, nurse, mom, neighbor, on August 7th, and thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much to all the candidates for taking the time to be here tonight and answer the questions. And I will turn it over to Diana Nearing for the closing remarks.
Thank you, Dharma, and thank you, candidates, for tonight's forum. And thank you to everyone who submitted questions. They were amazing questions that made this program amazing. And to all the CTN people who are behind the scenes. The forums will be broadcast on Channel 19 a number of times between now and the election on August 7th. They're also available on demand for streaming on your computer and your smartphone. Go to the website, lwvannarbor.org, and look for the link for the programs. Please urge your friends and fellow residents to watch these forums too. In addition, nonpartisan information on candidates and ballot issues, you can go to vote411.org, the League's Voter Resource Guide, which covers local, state, and federal candidates and the current proposals that will be on your ballot. Thank you again to everyone who's here tonight.